Hi everyone, hope everybody's well. It's Monday, it's incredibly humid and warm after last week's fun and games with the rain, so I hope everybody's not too warm. And if you haven't started a health and fitness program yet or trying to lose a bit of weight, now you're suffering for it. So yeah, because it's a bit warm. But yeah, no one complained about it being too hot or talk about hosepipe bans because before you were moaning about how cold it was. Right. So recovering from minor surgery. So bit of an eventful weekend for me. I went out on Friday, had a few beers, not like me. Went to a football presentation, and then Saturday night went to a 40th birthday party, which was awesome. Mr. Paul White's 40th birthday party, YT Fest, which was great, and had a few more beers, and quite a considerable amount of beers. It was an old school drinking session from me on Saturday. So yesterday was struggling a little bit, and of course today I'm struggling a little bit because I'm no spring chicken now, and I'm nearly 40, so this stuff does get a little bit harder to sustain. So what's the lesson here? Well, it's interesting that, people kind of, even if they know you, they think if you're a fitness person, they think if you're a fitness person that you don't ever enjoy yourself and you don't ever, go out and have fun. And I get that whole thing with the whole quinoa and kale brigade on Instagram and Facebook, and people only sharing their healthy dinners and talking about how they're killing it, and they don't share the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation for a lot of us is that we've got self-control issues. Me particularly, I've always had self-control issues, always struggled with it, and it is quite difficult to maintain and monitor, because when you've had problems with addictions, smoking, alcohol, recreational drugs, gambling, this sort of stuff, those things don't ever leave you, really. They always exist, they're always there. So you've got to forgive yourself for having those type of things. So for me, for example, when I go out and drink too much, the first thing I want to do is smoke, because I smoked for 15, 16 years. It was something that I actually quite enjoyed when I used to do it many years ago, and it's been quite an ongoing battle of mine, as well as trying to keep my weight down. So on Friday and Saturday I resisted the temptation to do that. It was close, particularly on Saturday, it was a close one, but I did resist the temptation of that. And I suppose the key message really is, sometimes what you've got to do is you have to forgive yourself for not being perfect, for having sort of self-control issues, and for trying to manage that darkness, because you're not trying to be perfect. Let's say, for example, if you're like me and you've gained quite a bit of weight, or you struggle with your weight, you don't just switch that off. You don't just switch those addictive behaviours off. You don't just switch those self-control issues off. It can take a lot of time, and it does always take management, because life's supposed to be enjoyed at the end of the day. And one of the things that people enjoy is socialising. Now, if you're, drinking too much because you've got stress issues and alcohol is a crutch for you, then that's potentially a problem. But if you go out and like enjoying yourself and like to be sociable, well, that's not a problem. But if you've got self-control issues, you have to manage that. You have to manage the fact that you could sort of lean back towards the dark side, and that every time I go out for a drink, that's what happens. There's a little bit of me that pops up from that obnoxious, I'm still obnoxious, but fat and obnoxious, overindulgent, gluttonous guy that was there for so many years, and now I'm trying to be the opposite of that and trying to manage it a bit better. When he pops up, it's scary, but I have to acknowledge that that's part of it. That's part of your light and dark, and you can't just pretend that everything's perfect. Like, some people on social media and Facebook pretend that everything's wonderful all the time and perfect, and there's no dark side and everything's rosy in the garden. Well, it's not. It's not, and a lot of us are trying to manage A, self-control issues, and B, trying to, be healthy. Because for me, the eternal struggle has always been, love food, hate being fat, and I've got that battle. Like, I've put a bit of weight on, a bit of water retention, because I drank too much and ate too much at the weekend, and I hate it. But I also like my food. So, what do you, I also like my food. So what do? Well, you forgive yourself a little bit, and what you do is you accept that actually you're human, and, there are going to be some battles that you need to fight, and it's not always going to be easy. And you need to forgive yourself a little bit, and you need to, peel away at that self-awareness on you, and accept that you are flawed, and it's okay. And don't just justify your behaviours. Don't carry on doing them and justify them. For example, a classic I get in my business is people will complain about how out of shape they are, how fat they are, but yet do nothing about it, but then just want to use like me as someone to complain to. Well, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to support people, to help them to grow, but I'm not here, and I'm here to support people who are honest, and I'm here to support people who want to take responsibility. But you're not here to listen to just people moan about stuff they're not willing to do anything about. You know, so you have to forgive yourself. You have to know that if you're in a process, you are going to slip. You are going to get those reminders you're human. You are going to get the dark side pop up every so often, and that's okay because you're human. And I have to go through it, and I have to, look at myself today when I'm sweating all my alcohol out from the weekend, and my love handles are massive again, and I feel fat, and my stomach's in bits. It's part of it. It's part of it, and I have to make a choice on what I hate more. Because I couldn't do this all the time. But I do want to enjoy myself occasionally. I do want to live my life. But I know that there is a balancing act here, and it's not about being perfect. It's about understanding yourself well enough to know that if you've got a dark side, you acknowledge it and you manage it. But it will pop up every so often and say hello. You're not perfect. Nobody is, no matter what they tell you on social media or what they update, pretending they've got this wonderful life where nothing goes wrong. It does sometimes, and the darkness, you have to manage it. You have to manage it. So, yeah, I've rambled on quite a bit there. I'm getting quite warm now, so I'm going to get out of the car. But yeah, look after your dark side, because the light side will look after itself. And give yourself a bit of a break sometimes, okay? Have a good day.